Hello everyone, this is Trevor from this year's microcart team. So today I'm going to be talking to you guys about VirtualBox and the virtual machines that we use in microcart. So we're just going to be talking about how to use everything from both microcart senior design perspective, how to use it in the infrastructure, and then I also kind of want to note on the CPRE 488 MP4 student experience, since these are kind of the two target groups that are going to be actually using the VMs. So I'm going to go over an overview and then some troubleshooting, and by the end of the video, hopefully I'll have some recordings of actually how to replicate some of these things. Alright, so a quick note on the purpose of this content. So microcart is really big in documentation and pushing better documentation for next year's team. So the purpose of this is sort of to accelerate the onboarding process for next year's microcart team, both by providing visual instruction through some of these steps, and then by providing solutions through some of the issues previously experienced in both the lab and by microcart. So some of the things we're going to be talking about. So the first thing is we're going to be talking about some basic steps and some operations that are commonly used. So this includes importing virtual machines, adding virtual machines, and then also exporting them. And then after that, we're going to be talking about some of the virtual machine settings, so how to change core count, memory allocation on the virtual machines, and how to actually go in and change these settings. After that, we'll talk about immutability, so what this means inside of these virtual machines. And then finally, we're going to talk about those troubleshooting bugs. So I have 3 listed down below. So that includes the USB dongle connections, upgrading guest editions, and then some other performance issues that we might also see. Okay, so I'm going to go through these slides fairly quickly just because I want to be able to show actually how to do these at the end of the video. So first we're going to be talking about those first steps, so importing a virtual machine. So this is done with the OVA files for the virtual machines, otherwise known as open virtualized appliances. So these files are typically several gigabytes long, and importing them is pretty straightforward. You just want to go into VirtualBox, File, Import Appliance. Once you do all of this, this takes several minutes typically. And then after this, we also have adding a virtual machine, which is not to be confused with importing. The main difference is that this is done with a VBox file. So in the same way that you'd import something, there's an add icon, and then you're going to locate your VBox file somewhere on your development PC. And then, like anything else, confirm all settings to make sure everything looks good. And then we also want to be able to know how to export a virtual machine. So this is pretty much the inverse process of importing. So assuming you have an OVA already on there, you're going to go through, select it, make sure all the settings are good, press finish, and then this will also take about 5 to 7 minutes. Okay, so one of the cool things you can do with the virtual machine is you can actually tune the hardware to your liking, so you can throw as many cores as you can on it or allocate as much RAM as you want. Typically, we would like to suggest to max out the processor core count and the amount of RAM that you're throwing at the virtual machine. This has seen to prevent some performance issues that we'll talk a little bit more about in the later part of this video. And this is just best for stability and overall throughput in the virtual machine. So immutability in the virtual machines is pretty much this idea that once you shut down the virtual machine and you start it back up, everything you had been working on is no longer going to be there. Pretty much the reason we want to do this is we want to make sure that if someone is leaving the lab and someone new is coming in, that all of the previous team's work is not saved on the virtual machine. So you can change the setting like anything else. It is a little bit confusing, but there is an easy way to do it once you figure it out. And it is worth noting that exporting an immutable virtual machine is not necessarily as straightforward as we thought. So to do this, we need an actual copy of the virtual machine in a VBox file. We can't export through an OVA, because when you do import again, it does just lose that immutability tag. So now we're going to talk about troubleshooting. So with the USB dongle connection, there are several different things that can kind of stem with issues with the dongle, including hardware issues, software issues with the GUI, but we do have some VM issues we can target. So one being USB settings that are found in the device menu. So if you remove all of these USB device filters and then just create a new one for the current crazy radio, and then double check that your USB controller setting is correct. So typically we like to recommend setting it to 2.0. Once you restart your VM, replug everything in, give it a couple attempts. Hopefully everything should be connected by then. So a more interesting but rare issue that we've seen occur, so as you can see on this figure on the right, sometimes these VBox client errors kind of flood your screen. It's kind of hard to replicate, but it is luckily a pretty easy fix. So to do this, you just want to go to Devices and then Upgrade Guest Editions. And then this process also typically takes about 5 minutes. But once that's done, you should see all these errors go away, and then your screen should be good as new. And then lastly, to talk a little bit more about performance issues. So obviously you want to go back and double check that the system settings are updated and up to your liking, so maxing everything out. And then if performance is typically slow for the Crazy Cart GUI, it might be something with the logging blocks file. It might be something with the software, but a good way to check if it's something from the logging blocks is going into that file. And then typically this value is set from 100 to 150. We recommend that you don't set it anywhere beyond 100 actually, but we've heard students say that setting it to 30 or 40 might be kind of the sweet spot to where you'll get low latency, but also have some good overhead printing of the logging blocks. And then also beyond that, it's good to make sure that any applications outside of the VM are closed if you don't need them, and then double checking that hardware issues aren't confused as VM issues, because hardware issues actually can contribute to issues inside of the VM. So with the USB dongle, if you have a broken dongle, that might be the reason why it's not showing up in the VM. So sort of to wrap everything up before I show you guys everything, so make sure to record any new issues that you see with the virtual machines. This could be done both microcart or CPRE488. Just make sure that this is communicated between the two mediums. And then also with the constant rework of the framework for the MP4 infrastructure, obviously it's just good practice to update the VMs as soon as you can. This is good to just make sure everything's up to date, and then to make sure that all the infrastructure is saved and versioned correctly. And then if you're still having issues, or if you're having an issue that wasn't touched in this video or mentioned by Microcart, VirtualBox from Oracle's website has some pretty good documentation in their forums, so make sure to go give them a try. And with that, yeah, let's jump into some of the walkthroughs. All right, welcome back. As you can see now, I'm in Oracle VirtualBox. So we're going to kind of go through those first steps. So first, like I said, you'll go up to File over here, and then you'll see that there's both import and export. We're going to go to import. And then once you find your OVA, you're just going to select it, go next, and then you'll see that it'll ask you about all these parameters. For the sake of the video, we'll leave these the same for now. Press finish, and then you'll see up here it'll take some time to import the appliance, and then once this is done, we'll come back. Alright, so once that's finished, you can see up here we have our VM now. So to export it, obviously you want to go to Export Appliance, and you'll see that we just have our one VM here. So we'll select that, press Next. It'll give you everything you need to know about paths and stuff like that. Go there, and then press Finish. And then same thing, you're going to wait a little bit. This will come up here, and then once this is done, wherever you saved your VM, it should be there. And then if you're looking for adding a VBox file, you'll go up to here and press Add. So I actually don't have a VBox file, but you'll see that it searches for either an XML or a VBox. If you have one of those, that would be the way to add it in. And once you do that, you should see a new. Okay, so we're going to be talking about a couple things real quick. So the first one I want to talk about is if we're having that VBox client error issue. So what you're going to do is you're just going to go up to the devices over here, and you're going to select Upgrade Guest Editions. I'm actually not going to press it because the last time I did it, it actually reproduced that error. But if you do have an issue where those errors are flooding the screen, it is good to press it. This is pretty much just going to check all the versioning between everything. So you'll see this update is available. We're not going to select that for now. Additionally, if we have those USB dongle issues, so you're going to go here to USB settings. You'll see all the device filters down here. So to remove them, you're actually going to select this. So like you'll see here, all of them are gone now. And then to actually change the USB controller settings, you're going to actually have to exit out of the VM. So I can do that really quickly, like so. And then right click this, go to settings, and then you'll see that in the USB you can actually change the controller setting now. And then it'll update down here. Additionally, so we're going to talk about the performance tags and how you can change those. So to do that, make sure your VM is off, and then go down to System over here, and then you're going to see that in Processor and Motherboard. So right now, I have this tuned up as much as I can. If you go past this, you'll see that it'll throw an error down here. It'll say reduce it down to 6, so I'll keep it right here. And then you can also do the same with the RAM up here. So I'm going to max that out to make sure that that's all okay. And once you're done, press OK, and then you'll see that somewhere, yes, here it is now saved. So now we're going to jump into immutability, how to set that on the VM. So if you notice somewhere in here, it'll say mode normal. Yes, here. So SATA port normal. So to change this, we're going to go up to File, Tools, and then Virtual Media Manager. Click that, and you'll see down here, opens this up, and then you'll see in the Attributes tab down here, the type is normal. We're just going to go to Immutable, press Apply. It's probably going to say something where you're going to have to release a disk, and then just press Release. And then once you start up your VM again, it should be good to go.